Cartographer of Closed Doors. The city of Anara bent like a fever dream. Its streets curved according to what people wouldn't say aloud, and its buildings leaned away from the weight of unspoken truths. In the mornings, you could walk a straight line to the market. By evening, that same street might spiral into itself, a labyrinth born from a merchant's shame or a child's fear of the dark. Daigen had learned to navigate it by looking down. Not at maps. Maps were useless here, but at the doors. Every emotion in Anara became a threshold. Joy manifested as bright archways wreathed in golden light. Anger was a red door that slammed itself open and shut. Loneliness appeared as narrow gaps between buildings, barely wide enough to slip through. And grief was the door no one would name, the one that appeared in shadows and alleyways, always locked, always waiting. Daigen was 23 and had been mapping the city's refused doors for 2 years. The cartography office paid him well for it. Most people wanted the pleasant doors, cataloged the ones leading to gardens of remembered laughter, to rooms filled with the smell of a grandmother's bread. But someone had to document the others. The doors people crossed the street to avoid. The ones that appeared in their homes at night and made them sleep with the lights on. He kept his own door, his father's door, carefully unmarked on every map he made. The office was in the folded quarter where the buildings stacked like shuffled cards. Daigen climbed the stairs that shifted from marble to wood to iron, depending on who was climbing them. For him, they were always stone, cold, gray, unchanging. "You're late," said Mora, the chief cartographer, without looking up from her desk. Her office was lined with maps that contradicted each other, dozens of versions of Anara layered like transparencies. The North District is collapsing. Streets folding in on themselves, buildings sinking. 3 people walked into the same cafe this morning and ended up in 3 different cities. She finally looked at him, her eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "There's a missing door, a big one. We need you to find it." Daigen felt something cold settle in his chest. Missing how? A woman named Mora Vesper. She lived in the Amber Lens district. Her door hasn't manifested in 6 months. The city's trying to compensate, bending space to fill the void, but it's tearing itself apart. Mora slid a photograph across the desk. A woman in her 40s, dark hair, sad eyes. Find her door. Map it. The usual fee plus hazard pay. He picked up the photograph. Mora Vesper looked like she'd been crying for years. What if she doesn't want it found? Then the city falls, Mora said simply, and we all fall with it. The Amber Lens district used to be beautiful. Daigen remembered coming here as a child with his father, watching the way the amber-tinted windows cast honey-colored light across the cobblestones. Now, the streets kinked at wrong angles, and the buildings leaned so far they nearly kissed overhead. Reality felt thin here, like paper stretched too tight. He found Moira's apartment by following the absence, the places where the city pulled away like skin from a wound. Her building stood alone in a widening circle of empty space. The neighboring structures had migrated a full block away during the night. The door to her apartment was ordinary. Brown wood, brass handle, number 4B in tarnished metal. Daigen knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Ms. Vesper, my name is Daigen. I'm with the cartography office. The door opened a crack. One dark eye peered out. Go away. I can't. The city's collapsing because of me, I know. The door opened wider. Moira Vesper looked worse than her photograph, thinner, grayer, like she was being erased from the world. Do you think I don't feel it? Every morning, the floor is further from my bed. Yesterday, I fell up the stairs. Then let me help. I can map your door, find it. There is no door. She said it with such finality that Daigen felt it like a slap. I looked. Every day for 6 months, I've looked. It's gone. Doors don't disappear. They just hide. He heard his father's voice in those words, a memory surfacing like a drowned thing. May I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was barely there. Literally, portions of the walls had faded to transparency, and through them, Daigen could see other rooms, other lives, bleeding through from adjacent realities. A child's bedroom, an elderly man's study, a kitchen where someone was crying. The floor felt spongy, uncertain. When did you last feel it? Daigen asked, pulling out his notebook. The emotion the door represents. Feel what? Whatever you're refusing. Moira laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You mean what I'm refusing to feel? Everything. Nothing. I've been numb for so long I've forgotten what I'm numb to. Daigen walked through the apartment, searching for the telltale signs, cold spots where a door wanted to manifest, shadows that fell at wrong angles, the smell of rust or roses or rain. But there was nothing, just the terrible absence. Tell me about yourself, he said. Why? Because doors come from stories. If I know yours, maybe I can find where it's hiding. She sat down on a couch that was only half visible. I had a daughter, Lily. She died 3 years ago, cancer. The words came out flat, rehearsed. After that, I tried to keep going. I did all the right things, therapy, support groups, medication. And one day I woke up and felt nothing. It was a relief, actually. No more pain, no more grief, just quiet. And 6 months ago, I realized I couldn't remember her face. Her voice cracked just slightly. I can remember facts about her. She was 8. She liked strawberry ice cream. She drew horses on everything. But I can't see her. When I try, there's just white space where she should be. The apartment groaned around them. A wall dissolved into mist. Daigen knew that white space. He'd been living in it for 3 years himself. His father had died suddenly. A heart attack in the garden, found lying peacefully among the tomatoes he'd been watering. Daigen had been away at university. By the time he got the call, it was already over the the body cremated according to his father's wishes, the funeral planned and executed by efficient relatives. Daigen had arrived just in time for the reception, where everyone kept telling him how peaceful it had been, how quick, how his father wouldn't have suffered. No one asked if he was suffering, and he discovered something then. If you don't let yourself feel it, it can't hurt you. Grief was a door, but you didn't have to walk through it. You could just step around it, live in the adjacent rooms, never quite face it. The door had manifested anyway, of course. In his apartment, it appeared as a narrow wooden door with peeling blue paint, the same blue as his father's garden shed. It appeared at random, in his closet, behind his shower curtain, in place of his front door, so he had to climb out the window. Always locked, always waiting. He'd never mapped it. He'd never even told Moira it existed. Professional cartographers weren't supposed to have unmapped doors. "I can't help you," Daigen said, standing abruptly. "Your door is gone. The city will have to adapt." Moira looked up at him with those erased eyes. "You're lying." "I'm not. You know where it is. You have the same look I see in the mirror." She stood, and as she did, the floor tilted violently. They both stumbled. "You have a missing door too." The apartment lurched. Through the dissolving walls, Daigen could see the city outside beginning to spiral, streets corkscrewing into themselves, buildings folding like origami. The collapse was accelerating. "I don't." "Yes, you do. And it's connected to mine somehow. That's why the city sent you." Moira grabbed his arm, her fingers surprisingly strong. "Isn't it? The city has a sense of humor like that. It knows." Another tremor. The couch fell through the floor and landed in someone else's living room 3 stories down. Daigen could hear screaming from the streets outside. "Fine," he said. "Yes, I have a door. My father died. I couldn't." "Where does it appear?" "Everywhere, nowhere. It follows me." "Then call it," Moira said. "Call it here." "That's not how it works." "How do you know? Have you ever tried?" She pulled him toward the center of the room, to where the floor was most translucent. Below them, Daigen could see infinite layers of the city, all collapsing into each other. "The city is made of our emotions, Daigen. It responds to them. If your door is connected to mine, if it's the key to finding mine, then call it." The building groaned like a dying animal. Daigen closed his eyes. He thought about his father. Not the facts, not the dates, and the funeral, and the efficient relatives, but the real memories. His father teaching him to tie his shoes. His father laughing at a bad joke. His father's hands, always dirty from the garden, gentle when they touched his mother's face. His father dying alone, while Daigen sat in a lecture hall, learning nothing important. The grief came up like a wave, and he'd been holding it back for so long that, when it finally broke through, it nearly knocked him over. And there, the door manifested between one heartbeat and the next. Blue paint peeling, brass handle slightly tarnished. The door to his father's garden shed, transplanted into Moira's dissolving apartment. There, Moira breathed. Oh, there it is. But it wasn't just his door. Behind it, overlapping it like a double exposure, was another door. Smaller, white-painted wood. A child's bedroom door with a sign hanging on it, Lily's room. Their doors had merged. Or maybe they'd always been the same door. Grief, recognizing grief across the city's twisted geography. We have to open it, Moira said. I can't. We don't have a choice. She reached for the handle. Wait, Daigen grabbed her hand. If we open it, if we go through, then we feel it, all of it. Everything we've been running from. She looked at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, there was something other than numbness in her eyes. Fear, but also something like hope. But maybe that's what doors are for, not to keep things out, but to let us in. The building shuddered. Cracks raced across the ceiling. Daigen thought about his maps. All those doors he'd cataloged, all those emotions he'd documented from a safe distance. He'd been mapping the city for 2 years, but he'd never really understood it. He'd treated emotions like landmarks to be noted and avoided, not as places to inhabit. But a city made of feelings couldn't exist if no one was willing to feel them. He nodded. Together, they turned the handle. The door opened onto a garden. Not his father's garden, not exactly, but something deeper. A place where all gardens existed at once, where every seed planted with love became a tree of memory. His father was there, not as a ghost, but as a presence, a warmth in the air. And Daigen finally let himself feel it. The loss, the love, the terrible aching absence of a person who'd been his entire world. He wept. He wept for 3 years of frozen grief, for all the times he'd stepped around the door instead of through it, for the way he'd tried to map pain without ever touching it. And beside him, Moira was weeping too, because beyond the garden was a child's room, painted with horses, smelling of strawberry ice cream and hope. And there was Lily, not gone, but held in the way all lost things are held, in the architecture of love that survives death. They stayed there for a time, a minute, an hour, years maybe. Time worked differently inside grief. When they finally stepped back through, into Moira's apartment, the city had stopped collapsing. The walls were solid again. The floor was firm. Through the windows, Daigen could see the streets unknotting themselves, the buildings settling back into their proper places. The absence that had surrounded Moira's building was filling in. New doors manifesting in the empty spaces, doors of every color, every emotion. A city rebuilding itself around acknowledged pain. Look, Moira said, in the center of her living room, where the merged door had been, 2 doors now stood side by side. The blue one and the white one. Separate now, but still connected, sharing the same frame. 2 halves of the same threshold. They'll always be there, Daigen said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Moira agreed. But now I can open mine when I need to. Now I can visit her. She touched the white door gently, the way you'd touch something precious. "Thank you." Daigen nodded. His throat was too tight for words. He left her there and walked back through the amber lens district. The honey-colored light had returned, warm on his skin. The streets ran straight. The buildings stood proud. Around him, he could see the city's doors, thousands of them, millions, each one an invitation to feel, to remember, to be rather than to avoid. And behind him, following him home the way it always would, was his blue door, still locked. But now, maybe, he had the key. Moira looked up when he entered the office. Well, the collapse has stopped. Mora Vesper's door has manifested. He set his notebook on her desk. And I need to update my registration. Update it how? I have an unmapped door. I should have reported it 2 years ago. He met her eyes. I'm reporting it now. Moira studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Classification. Grief, ongoing. Manifests as a blue wooden door with peeling paint. She made a note, and its status. Daigen thought about the garden, about his father's warmth, still living in the spaces between memory and love, about how the only way to map pain was to walk through it, to let it change you, to emerge on the other side with tear-stained maps, and a deeper understanding of the territory. Accessible, he said, as of today. Moira smiled slightly, the first time he'd ever seen her smile. Good. The city needs cartographers who know the landscape from the inside. She pulled out a new map, one with large blank spaces. Because there are always more doors to find, and someone has to walk through them. Daigen took the map. Outside the window, Anara stretched into the distance, a metropolis of emotion and memory, always shifting, always growing. A city that fell apart when people refused to feel and rebuilt itself when they finally did. He thought about all the unmapped doors out there, waiting for cartographers brave enough to open them. And for the first time in 3 years, he thought he might be one of them. The blue door appeared in the corner of the office, quiet as a heartbeat. He smiled at it, just slightly, then turned back to his work. The map wouldn't draw itself. And the city, the beautiful, terrible, honest city, was waiting to be known.